So, today we're diving into a truly mind-bending philosophical concept from our source material, the uncanny equation. And really, it's an idea that takes our most heroic stories, the ones about climbing, overcoming, and becoming something more, and it reveals this hidden and, frankly, pretty unsettling architecture that's hiding underneath it all.
And this, right here, this is the central paradox of the whole thing. It's the question that sits at the very heart of what's called the Twilight Web. We're always taught that to be free, you have to rise above. You have to get away from the masses, you have to struggle and ascend. But what if that very struggle is the mechanism that keeps you locked in? Let's unpack that.
To really get why this idea is such a bombshell, we first have to talk about the story it's trying to tear down. The one we all know, the one we instinctively recognize. It's the story of the noble climb, the classic hero's journey.
Okay, so what you're looking at here is the traditional battlefield of values. On one side, you've got the peak. This is master morality, where the strong individual gets to define their own good and evil. It's the world of the overman, who's always striving for a star. And then on the other side, you've got the valley. This is home to slave morality, which praises things like pity and humility, values born from the perspective of the powerless. And the whole point of the story is to get from that valley column to the peak column.
So, the mission seems pretty clear, right? It's a journey of separation. You overcome the pull of the valley to get to this higher, independent state of being. You fight, you struggle, you break away. But this is exactly where the source material tells us the great deception begins. What if this whole heroic story has a secret director, a hidden architect? The source text introduces this entity called the tarantula, who has apparently woven a totally different kind of reality, the Twilight Web. And see, the Twilight Web isn't some battlefield with two opposing sides. No, it's a single, interconnected system. The keyword here is illusion. That conflict we think we see, the one between the hero and the herd, it's not real. It's a carefully engineered fiction. This quote right here gets to the heart of the Weaver's truth. That ultimate goal, that throne of light the hero is climbing toward, it isn't self-sufficient. It's not some independent star floating in the sky. It hangs. And that immediately begs the question, what in the world is it hanging from? Well, this is the hidden physics of the web. That stagnant comfort of the herd that the hero hates so much, that actually creates the downward gravitational pull. And the hero's struggle to get away, that creates the upward tension on the thread. Do you see the trap here? You can't have one without the other. They're not enemies. They are two perfectly opposing forces that create a stable equilibrium for the entire structure. Now, this relationship isn't just some casual observation. It's a metaphysical law. So let's dive into the core of this whole thing, the equation itself, and the feeling it's designed to provoke, what the text calls the horror of recognition. I mean, just imagine it. The Weaver, this tarantula, finally pulls back the curtain and shows the hero the actual blueprint for his own prison. And that blueprint, it's an equation. And here it is. Zenith, which is the highest point, the star, equals nadir, the lowest point, the web, multiplied by perspective. Now, perspective is just the framework that makes one seem high and the other seem low. What this means is that the star you're reaching for isn't some separate noble thing. Its very existence is a product of the web you're trying to escape. The height of the peak is literally determined by the depth of the valley. It's all just one big, interconnected calculation. Okay, it's a fascinating formula for sure, but why use that specific word, uncanny? What is so deeply unsettling and weird about this revelation? Well, the term comes from the German word unheimlich, which literally means unhomely. And it's that chilling feeling you get when something you thought was totally familiar and safe, like your own home, suddenly feels foreign, strange, and even threatening. And that's the feeling. That's the horror this equation is designed to create. It's the climber, looking down at the herd he despises, the source of all mediocrity, and realizing that his own ambition, his own ladder to the stars, is made of the exact same stuff. This example from the text just hits the nail on the head. The overman forges an iron nail, a tool to build his new world. The herd, on the other hand, worships a gold cross for comfort. One is sharpened, the other is polished. But the source text is crystal clear. They are both forged from the very same fundamental material. The difference between them is just a matter of shaping. This is what the source calls the collapse of distance. It's that terrifying moment the climber realizes he hasn't actually made any vertical progress at all. He's just been walking along a cosmic Mobius strip, a single thread that was always going to loop back to where it started. The whole feeling of ascent, it was just an illusion.
So what does all of this actually mean in practice? How does this equation work as a trap? This is where the concept goes from being a philosophical horror story to a practical, functioning prison. This is where rebellion becomes obedience.
Let's just walk through the 4 steps of this perfect trap. Okay, step 1. The hero rejects the herd. Step 2. His passionate struggle to get away pulls the thread of the web tighter and tighter. Step 3. This very tension is what gives the entire structure its stability, making the tarantula's throne at the center even more secure. And step 4. Just like that, his grand act of rebellion has become a vital act of system maintenance.
And here we have the fundamental mistake. The climber believes his purpose is overcoming, but the weaver, the architect of this whole system, knows his true function is simply tensioning. The hero isn't a revolutionary. He's a load-bearing pillar in a prison he thinks he's escaping.
And this quote just sums it all up perfectly. The peak isn't a real place you conquer. It's a theatrical effect, an optical illusion, a mirage, whose shimmering appearance is produced entirely by the gravitational weight and density of the valley down below. Which, of course, leaves us with the final, haunting question that the source text just leaves hanging in the air. If fighting the system, if struggling against it, only makes the web stronger, if rebellion itself is the ultimate form of obedience, then what on earth could the real path to freedom possibly look like?